None of this is natural. Hi, everyone who's here. Thanks for joining me. My name is Laura Bergels, and thank you for coming to my office hour. The theme of today's event is None of This is Natural. So, that public speaking advice of just act natural seems really strange to me when think about what I'm doing right now. Look what I'm doing. I am sitting alone in a room staring at a piece of glass, and I'm talking to what looks like people from all over the world. Hi, Michael Cool. I know you're not from too far away from me. You're here in Grand Rapids. And Pam Fitchberry, hi, thanks for showing up. Tell me where you're from. And Rinku Jamet and Mark Yao, is this still happening? Yes, this is still happening. I understand there was something like a 6-minute delay before we started. That's another thing. Just act natural. I'm in a natural environment. Like I said, sitting alone in Grand Rapids, Michigan. If this was a on-campus office hour where I sit in my little office on campus, I usually eat lunch alone. And I feel lucky if one student shows up. But today it looks like I've got at least 4 people who have shown up. So thank you for showing up. And if you have questions about public speaking, please put them in the comments below. Appreciate it and appreciate you for being here. So thank you. And thanks for showing up. And let's talk about what I'm doing right now and why this isn't natural. The whole concept of me staring into a camera while I'm sitting alone in Grand Rapids and talking to people from all over the world, that's not natural. So giving people the advice of just act natural when you are in an unnatural environment seems to be really unhelpful advice. So don't act natural is what my advice for you today is. We're going to talk about how to be a little bit unnatural until I get some comments flowing in here. Okay? Pam Berry from Minnesota, cold and snowy and sunny. Well, guess what we have here in Grand Rapids, Pam? We've got cold and we've got snow, but at least it's not snowing. And sad to say, it's not sunny. But thanks for the weather report. Sitting here alone, not being natural in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So let's talk about why none of this is natural and what we can do instead. I'll start by telling you a story about your cavewoman ancestors. You know how people always talk about your caveman ancestors? Let's put a stop to that nonsense because we have cavewomen ancestors. Women are largely responsible for advancing the human race. So let's talk about our cavewoman ancestors, and let's talk about one cavewoman in particular and what she did. One day, this cavewoman, and we'll never know her name, picked up a rock. And what she did with that rock is she started smashing seeds and nuts. And it was such an efficient means of food production. She demonstrated this to the other cavewomen in her tribe, in her clan, and the idea took off. Everyone in her clan started smashing after she did her demonstration. And everybody loved the idea. They thought she was the heroine of the clan. So braced with this success, this cavewoman gets this idea. She says, you know what I am going to do? I'm going to take my rock and I'm going to travel to other clans, people that I do not know. And I will show them my rock and I will show them the seed smashing technique. And they too will think that I am a wonderful person. So the cavewoman picks up her rock. She travels miles and miles by foot, comes upon her first clan. A group of women approach her and she stands and she shows them her rock and she raises it. And instantly all the other cave women, they raise their rocks too and they beat her to death with it. Because there is nothing in our instinctive natures that tells us to going up to a group of strangers and presenting them with a new idea that we have is in any way a good idea. Now, of course, I completely made up that story. It never happened because we know that going up in front of strangers is difficult. It is hard. There's nothing in our background that says, hey, I'm going to talk to people that I don't know about a great idea. And we're thinking, yeah, that's not going to get me killed. We have this enormous fear response sometimes when we do things like that. Johnny Hughes says, this is the first of these things I've attended. Follow you and love your thoughts and storytelling. Johnny, I hope I am pronouncing your name right. Am I? Let me know. And thank you. I appreciate you for showing up. Like I said, none of this is natural. If I was in my office on campus, like I said, if one person showed up, I would be absolutely thrilled. And I am. You showed up and you have just made my day. So thank you. So your cave women ancestors, I'll get back to that. There's a good reason why you feel nervous before a big presentation. None of this is natural to you. So if it's not natural, what might you try instead? What might you do instead of being natural? Well, do the opposite. Be a little unnatural, because public speaking isn't a natural activity. What it is, public speaking is a skill. And like any skill, it can be learned. But beyond having a skill set, which you can learn, you also need to balance that with a mindset, because you have to overcome some obstacles sometimes, don't you? Obstacles like people asking you to just be natural in an unnatural environment, or just a lot of other things that people will tell you that maybe aren't so helpful, like picturing your audience naked. How is that helpful? Also, don't those two pieces of advice seem to contradict each other, of just act natural and pretend everyone's naked? Because those two don't go together for me. I don't know about you. So balancing that skill set and mindset, learning the skills, but also thinking about, okay, I've got a skill set perhaps that I'm working on, but what mindset do I need to have? What can I do to make sure that I don't have these nights of anxiety or these sleepless nights, or have such a huge attack of the nerves that I can't go on? And let me back up a little and say, I think nerves are great. I think nerves are the respect that you pay your audience. If you don't get a little nervous or a little excited before a big presentation, it's probably because you aren't risking too much, and maybe you need to reevaluate why you're not getting a little nervous or excited before a big presentation. So balancing that mindset and being aware of what your mindset is. If you've taken my courses, you know that I am a big, huge fan of meditation and mindfulness practices. Through a daily mindfulness or meditation practice, you can gain a lot of awareness about what your mind is doing and how your body reacts to it. But until you do, you might want to work on some of that skill set and some things like body work, breath work, that can help us become a little less nervous before we go into a big presentation situation. Another thing we can do, the second thing, instead of not being natural, is to keep learning, trying, and practicing. I'm going to break those down into three things. Learning means exactly that. Take classes and read books. Even though I've been presenting for a long time and stand up and deliver a lot, I keep taking classes. I keep reading books. I keep getting coached and getting feedback. Why? Because one thing that can really strike savvy professionals and savvy preventers is we can get sloppy. We can start resting on our own laurels. We can start developing habits. We can get comfortable. And we forget to engage with our audiences. So I do keep learning, and I do have an old saying, and the saying is, if you teach courses, you take courses. It gives you a sense of humility. It gives you a sense of empathy. You know what it's like to be a student when you take classes, and when you're a teacher, knowing what it's like to be a student is really helpful. So keep doing that. That's the learning component. And I do invite you again to take my public speaking foundation course, because that keeps you in the habit of learning. Before even I will get into a presentation, I will put it in my calendar to every 3 months or so rewatch that foundation course, because it grounds me in the foundations. And I hope it grounds you in the foundations and also gives you a little motivation as well. And also the trying part. Yoda was famous saying, there is no try, there is just do. I disagree with Yoda because I believe in trying. And that's a thing that savvy presenters should do as well. We need to try new things. We need to know what the rules are. We need to know what the foundations are so that we can go ahead and break them. We need to risk new things, because if we aren't taking a risk, we might not get nervous. We might not try new things and break new territory. We can get old and sloppy, and we want to be able to try new things, like what I'm doing right now with an online office hour, for example. The other thing is, I also am involved with improv writing, improv troops, improv classes. And one thing about that that we often like to say is, the audience loves to see the struggle when you're trying. All right. Sometimes somebody will toss something at you, an offer, as we say on stage, or a cue in a Q&A session or a situation. They'll toss you that question, and there'll be that brief moment where you do not know what to say. And guess what? Audiences love to see that flicker of struggle that goes on your face. It gives them a sense of empathy, because we've all been there. So keep trying, because audiences love the try. They love the struggle. They love the thrill of the risk. So while Yoda says there is no try, I see keep on trying. And lastly, keep on practicing too. People hate hearing that, but it's so true. The more you practice this, the better you will get at it. As long as you keep grounded in the fundamentals, you keep getting feedback, you keep getting coaching, and you pay attention to feedback that is specific, truthful, and offered with the true intention of helping you be better. Keep practicing. So for the final third thought was, let's work and try some unnatural things together. Shall we? Yeah, let's do that. Before a presentation, I often like to start with vocal warm-ups and facial warm-ups and breath and body work. And I did some before I got into this very presentation here. Let's try one. Maybe at another time we can do some vocal warm-ups. But right now, let's start with a simple facial warm-up. And why am I recommending a facial warm-up? Well, especially before you go on camera or in a Zoom meeting. This is what often happens. Let me tell you the story of actually something that did happen. I was coaching an executive, and what he did was he sent me a video of himself talking for a presentation. That's something that I do, and something that I offer is I will coach executives one-on-one here in Zoom. And sometimes what they'll do is send me a 2 or 3 minute clip of their intro, or they'll send me the full presentation that they intend to do, or we'll get together in Zoom and practice together, do the feedback, do some exercises and things of that nature. Well, in this case, he sent me a video, and I looked at it, and his content was well structured, very good. And I wrote back to him and I said, okay, before our call, before we jump into the Zoom call, watch it, but watch it with the sound off. And we get into the meeting, and he said, oh my God, what's wrong with me? And I said, what do you mean? And he says, I look like I'm dead. I look like I'm a zombie on camera. I'm just doing this, and I'm just talking to people, and I just look like, I just look dead. And I said, let me guess a little bit about what happened before you went on camera. You were doing what I was doing all morning this morning, is I was working on a client project. So I was typing for 2-3 hours, staring down and typing. And then, oh, I have to be in a 12:30 office hour, right? Okay. So can you imagine if I was just typing, 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 and now, oops, I have to be in an office hour. So I'd get up and say, okay, here I am. I'm in my office hour. I'm doing my Zoom presentation right now. Uh-oh, my face. Look at what's going on with my face. Oh, it's dead. It's dead. What can I do? So before I hop on camera, I do like to do facial warm-up exercises because it's not just your voice that can go monotone, your whole face can go monotone. So it needs to be activated before you go into a presentation. And in theater, one of the things that we like to do is something called a warm-up exercise called lemon face, lion face. And we do that just really briefly. It takes about 10, 15 seconds, perhaps, to warm up your face so that your face has more range, more emotional range when you go on stage or you go on camera. And it's a pretty simple exercise. The first part is lemon. And think about what your face looks like when you eat a lemon. Suck on a lemon. It gets really small. Lemon. So lemon face, and then the lion face. What I want you to do is think about a statue of a lion, perhaps in Asia, where they have the small eyes and the tongue out, and the lion is just roaring away, and it's ah. See what I did? I went from lemon face, lion face. Then do it fast. So why am I making these terrible faces at you? And please do that yourself. Just lean into the camera right now, lean into your computer, and give me a lemon face. Give me a lion face. When you did that, you got a lot more range into your face, a lot more emotional range. And that brief little exercise that you can do for 15 seconds privately in your own home, or go to a washroom or a restroom and do that privately before you hop on stage, can give your face a whole lot more facial range or emotional range when you step on stage or step into a camera. The other nice thing is, because you're dropping your jaw and moving your jaw a lot, your pronunciation can actually get a lot better, because it reminds you that you do need to move your jaw to get some really good clarity with your words. And when we're working on a camera or working off camera and working all day, our jaws can be kind of tight, right? Keep them shut. So then when we get up, we start doing this kind of business where we're not really opening our mouths very much. And it's not very interesting to look at me on camera if I'm not moving my mouth very much, is it? So lemon face, lion face can kind of work. And if you don't like that one, a riff on lemon face, lion face is one that I teach in my LinkedIn learning course. Is small as a raisin and large as a pumpkin. Same riff. Like the lemon, you think small as a raisin. How can I make my face as small as a raisin? And how can I make it as large as a pumpkin? Think of that jack-o'-lantern. We just got out of Halloween season, where we've got the big eyes. Unlike the lion, we're doing the big eyes and the big mouth. Raisin, pumpkin. It's a really subtle technique, right? Really small, but you know what? It works, right? Because now I'm using my voice. I'm feeling that I can use my eyes more. I can get more emotional range out of my voice. And now, for people who are having that trouble with the sleepless night before the presentation, I have yet another unnatural thing for you to try, okay? Under Don't Act Natural. This is a completely unnatural thing to do. But a lot of times when we're having that sleepless night, we tend to clench our jaws a little bit. So this is completely crazy, but it totally works for me. If I'm getting a little amped up, not really sleeping that well, wine cork. Got a wine cork at home? Can you find one? Put it in your mouth. Top tooth, lower tooth. I can hold that for about a minute. Try to hold that for about a minute. It's easy for me to do right now because I'm really relaxed, because I've been talking for a while. If you're tense, you will feel how hard that is in your jaw, okay? You will feel, whoa, that first 10 seconds hurts. It's smart. So you might not be able to hold it for a minute, but try for a minute. It kind of reminds you, unclench that jaw a little bit. You'll get better pronunciation. And here's the weird thing. You'll feel more relaxed so you can sleep. It forces your face to relax. So if you have a cork, a wine cork hanging around, completely unnatural thing to do. Give it a shot. It can help you get a good night's sleep. Well, that's it for me. Thank you for showing up for my online office hour, which ends up being an online office half hour. I don't see that there's any questions for me unless I'm doing this whole thing wrong. I see a lot of nice comments, like the one that I got from Pam and the one that I got from Gianni. I hope that I got that right and pronounced it correctly. And hi, Michael, and hi, Rinku. You all have very nice things to say, but I am not seeing any questions. I wonder if I should just do what I usually do during my office hours, my lunch office hour. I see it's almost 1 o'clock, so I'll stay here till 1 and eat lunch. That's generally what I do. Oh, wait, we got a comment. Comment just came in. Thank you. That was fun to listen to. Thank you, Gianni, for showing up. And now the questions are coming in. Speaking on Zoom, let's see what we have to say. It's so different than in person. We need to be like newscasters. Well, yeah, to a certain extent, maybe, John. And thanks for your question, your comment. Maybe we need to be a little bit like newscasters. I don't think I'm exactly like a newscaster. I'm not terribly buttoned down now, am I? I hope you enjoyed some of those exercises. Sometimes having a bit of a sense of humor can go a long way for you. Sometimes using props, like a corn, what do they call it? A cork, can help you too. But yeah, having the presence or the mindfulness that we talked about to say, what is my presence teaching people? What do I want my presence to be? Okay, so that's something to meditate on as well. Does it need to be humorous? Is it news? Is it informational? Am I instructing? Am I entertaining? Am I persuading? What do I need? What do I need to be for that particular presence? Mark has a question. Totally agree on imagine your audience naked being the worst advice. Love the wine cork advice. That's great. Thanks for your comment, Mark. I really appreciate that. Agnes Kiss. Thanks for asking, how can one take your courses? I am a LinkedIn learning instructor. So if you go to linkedin.com/learning, you can search for my name, which is Laura Bergels. You can see that in the comments as well. And it is free to LinkedIn Learning Premium members. If you're not a premium member, they do make you pay for it. But I found a really neat workaround. Ready for this? This is a hot tip. If you live in a community with a great library system, or sometimes, just a good library system, I live in one with a great system, and a lot of people do. Love your public libraries is what I'm saying. If you have a library card, go to their website, and most libraries will offer you access to the entire LinkedIn Learning library for the price of your library card, which in my community is free. All right. So there are 2 great library systems in my neighborhood. One is Kent District Library. That's for you, Michael. And the other is Grand Rapids Public Library. I'm a KDL person. Kent District Library. All I have to do is go to their website, go to my local website, enter my library card number. They'll take me to LinkedIn Learning, and voila, free LinkedIn Learning courses. And it's not just my course. It is a lot of my fellow instructors, and you can learn so much there. I teach courses in public speaking. I teach courses in crisis communication, in writing. In real life, I teach courses on creativity. I used to teach social media marketing. And right now, what I've been doing a lot of over the past 2 years is teaching right here live courses out of my home. I do consultations one-on-one with a lot of executives who want to rehearse and get feedback. Because you know what happens to a lot of executives? If they want to get rehearsal feedback from their peers or their employees, guess what the employees say? Great job, boss. You did great. You were wonderful. And sometimes that advice is not so sincere. So having someone who doesn't have any skin in the game with regard to getting promoted or getting fired is usually the way to go, in my opinion. And also, I do offer really good feedback on performances. So if that's you, hit me up and take a look for that. There's a sign up to get a one-on-one consult with me on my website, which is maniactive.com. And there's a thing there called Hire Laura. You can click on that. I do offer a free half hour so that we can see if we're a good fit for each other, because I don't accept everybody. Sometimes I'll talk to somebody for a half hour and they're like, I don't like you, Laura. And I'm like, that's cool. I don't like you either. So the free half hour is just like, we get to know each other and see if it's going to be a good fit. No big whoop. Michael, cool. You're saying hey and hi. Cool. Glad that you showed up, Michael. How do we get practice looking into the camera? John, thanks for your question. You got a camera? Here's the one that I'm looking at. It's right here. I'm looking right at it. And guess what? It's something that takes some time. You have to, what I often did for classes over the past year, because I would have people send in their 3 to 4 minute videos, was the most common thing that I had to fix is they were just looking off here. They were looking down here, because our tendency is to want to look down at the people that are in the Zoom meeting. And what we need to do is look here at the camera, because what this does is emulate us looking into your eyes. And it's not just looking at the camera. After a while, we teach techniques like looking through the camera. So now I'm not just looking at the camera right now. As I'm talking to you, John, I'm looking at you. Remember Romper Room? I'm pretty old, but it used to be a TV show. And a woman would come on and she'd have a magic mirror and she'd go romper, romper, zomper, boo. I can't remember it, but as a little kid, she would pretend that she was looking at you through the camera and she would say, I see Laura. And she would say, I see Laura. I'm like, oh, Mom, the person's looking at me. It's because she learned how to look through the camera lens. But your first step is to look at the lens, okay? So the first thing for very new people is to actually do this. Low-tech sticky notes, man. You put up the arrow, stick it right there to just remind yourself. You'll get that arrow that says, nope, don't look up, look at the camera every single time. So then guess what happens? If you've been doing that for a while, after 2 minutes or so, 2 weeks or so, I would say, you start getting immune to that arrow. You start not seeing it anymore, and you'll start to drift again. So then I offer another technique, which is take these again. And this time, draw a big smiley face on it and stick it up there. Now that sounds pretty dumb, right? It sounds pretty juvenile. But guess what? That smiley face thing will also remind you for the next 2 weeks to smile when you go into a Zoom meetings, because smiling helps light up your face. It helps you be more engaging to look at. So start with your arrow to force your eye to look at that camera. And then get your smiley face after 2 weeks, after you've become immune to the arrow, to remind you to smile. And then later on, we can work on some of those techniques so that we're not looking at the camera, but we're looking through the camera. And I see you, John. I see you. All right. It toned down. I wonder where to look. Okay, if you're wondering where to look, use your sticky note. Agnes Kiss, you said, wow. Okay, I'm going to guess that that was for the library card. Yeah, give that a try. And John, you liked my advice. You said good advice. Thank you. Well, thank you, John. Unless there are other questions, um, I think I'll say goodbye right now. What is it? Oh, heck, I went over. It's 1:06. Well, I kind of started late, so sorry about that. I broke my own rule, right? Oh, well, like they say, never apologize. Thank you for waiting and thank you for showing up. And for my closing thought, what I'll say is if anyone can remember the words to that romper, stomper, bomper, boo from Romper Room, hit me up in the comments and I'll mention it next time. Also, I really need to know what that is. Romper, bomper, boo. I'm looking at you, John. Talk to you next time.